Hey everyone, welcome to another deep dive. And today we're tackling something that honestly affects everyone, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
It's financial wellness. We're
Yeah.
talking about taking control of your money and building a foundation for a better, brighter future. And honestly, guys, it doesn't have to be as dry as it sounds, I promise.
I know, right?
Yeah.
It's amazing how empowering it can be when you even just have like a basic grasp, a basic understanding of your own finances.
Yeah.
It's like you suddenly have this toolkit, this secret weapon almost, to really, really go after your goals.
Totally. And that's what we're all about here, right? So we're using this super cool financial literacy lesson plan, kind of like our guide for today.
Yeah,
It's like having a personal finance class, but, way more our style, way more fun.
exactly.
So let's just dive right in. Okay. It all starts with really understanding what financial literacy even means.
Yeah.
It's basically like having the know-how, the actual skills to manage your money well, right?
Exactly. And it's not just about being like a math genius
Right.
or memorizing all these like financial terms, although, yeah, we'll definitely break down some of the jargon today.
Yes.
But it's really, really about making, good decisions, informed decisions about your money so you can live a less stressful life, more fulfilling life.
Okay. Less stress, more fulfillment. I mean, I'm already sold. But seriously, imagine being able to just plan that dream vacation you've always wanted to go on,
Totally.
buy a car, and you're not stressed out about the payments, or even just retire comfortably. I mean, that's the power of being financially literate, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's like having that freedom to really achieve your goals.
Yeah.
Design the life that you want and not be held back by financial worries.
Yeah,
Which, let's be honest, we all have those.
totally.
Okay, but let's be real for a sec. Sometimes the financial world can feel a little bit like, a secret society, right?
Always.
With all these confusing terms. This lesson plan's got, it throws around terms like earned income, fixed expenses, compound interest.
Right.
Honestly, sometimes it feels like I'm learning a foreign language.
For sure.
So, should we try to decode some of this stuff? What do you think?
I think that's a great idea. Let's demystify some of these like scary financial terms.
Okay, perfect. So, let's start with the basics, okay? Income, I think we all know what income is, but this lesson plan, it breaks it down even further. It's like earned income, unearned income. So, what's the difference?
So think of earned income as like the money you're getting from working, right?
Okay, yeah,
Your
yeah.
salary, your wages, maybe you've got a side hustle going on.
Oh, I get it.
That all falls under earned income.
Okay, that makes sense. So, does that mean unearned income is winning the lottery?
Oh, winning the lottery would be amazing, right?
Yeah. Asking for a friend?
But unearned income, think of things like investment returns, dividends from stocks, or maybe interest you're earning on a savings account. It's basically money that you're making without, you know, actively working for it, at least not in the traditional sense.
Okay, so my childhood dream of becoming a trust fund kid is not totally gone, just on hold for now.
There's still hope.
I'm totally kidding. But that's a great distinction, right? Like earned, unearned.
Yeah, yeah, it's important.
Okay, so we've got our income all sorted out, but what about where it's all going?
Right.
And that, I'm guessing, is where expenses come in.
Exactly. Yeah.
And this lesson plan breaks those down, too. We've got fixed and variable,
Right.
right? What's the difference, and why should we even care?
So this is really, really key to understanding, where your money's going and getting a good handle on your finances.
Yeah.
So fixed expenses, think of those as like, your rent, your mortgage payment.
Okay.
These are the things that generally stay pretty much the same month to month.
Right, yeah.
Clockwork, right?
Yeah.
And then you've got your variable expenses. And these are things that fluctuate. So think like your grocery bill, maybe your utility bills, the things that can change from month to month.
Okay, so my grocery bill is definitely variable because it depends. Am I going for, the fancy new ramen place down the street, or am I actually going to cook this week?
Exactly. Yeah. And that's a perfect example.
It really just depends on my mood and, how much time I have, honestly. But I'm sensing a theme here, knowing the difference between these types of expenses, that's super important for making a budget, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's something that this lesson plan really, really stresses is the importance of creating a budget.
Yes.
It's all about tracking your spending, making sure that your money's working as hard as you are. And honestly, it can help you reach your financial goals faster.
I like that. Okay, so we're not talking about a diet for your money, right?
No, that.
This is more strategic, like you said, making it work for you. Okay, so speaking of goals, How does understanding the difference between a need and a want play into all of this?
Yeah, that's where it gets really interesting, right? Because it's all about like finding a balance that works for you.
Right.
And so needs, those are like your non-negotiables, your housing, food, utilities, like the things you absolutely need to survive to function.
Okay, so like those are the essentials, right? We got to factor those into the budget first.
Exactly.
But we don't want to just like exist, right? We want to enjoy life a little bit. So where do the wants come in?
Yeah, exactly. Wants are those things that, bring us joy. They make life a little bit sweeter, but, we don't need them to survive.
Right.
Think like vacations, concert tickets, that new gadget you've been eyeing.
Ooh, yeah.
But, recognizing the difference between these two helps us make, conscious choices about where our money's going.
Okay.
And a budget helps us find room for both. So we're not just like, living this life of deprivation.
Right. It's all about balance.
Exactly.
Okay, so speaking of things that can be a little bit scary, this lesson plan also talks about debt,
Yeah.
which we all know the D word can be a little bit intimidating. But the lesson plan says that not all debt is created equal.
Right.
It breaks it down into good debt and bad debt.
Okay.
So how can we tell the difference?
That is the question, right? So good debt. Think of it like an investment in your future.
Okay.
It might sound a little strange, but it's like you're planting a seed.
Okay.
It requires like an upfront investment, but it's going to yield, valuable returns over time.
Got it.
So things like a mortgage, right? Helps you own a home, which, could potentially increase in value over time.
Right.
Student loans ideally lead to higher earning potential.
Okay.
Even a business loan can help you generate income down the road. So these typically have lower interest rates, and they offer those long-term benefits.
Okay, I think I'm starting to understand. So bad debt, that's what we really need to watch out for.
Bad debt, yeah, it's like a sugar rush. Feels good in the moment, but it leaves you a little worse off later.
Yeah.
So
What are some examples of like bad debt? And how do we avoid falling into that trap?
yeah, so bad debt is often high interest,
Uh-huh.
and it doesn't really offer you any lasting value, right? And it can quickly spiral out of control if you're not careful.
Yeah.
Think like credit card debt, payday loans, things that offer that immediate gratification.
Right.
But, they can have those long-term financial consequences.
And the interest rates are scary.
Oh, very scary.
Okay, well, speaking of scary things,
Right.
the lesson plan also mentions interest, which, as we all know, can either be our best friend
Yes,
or our worst enemy.
absolutely.
So can you break down why understanding interest is so important for like our overall financial well-being?
Yeah. So it all comes down to this powerful thing called compound interest.
Okay.
And it's like a snowball effect.
Uh-huh.
So when you're saving or investing, compound interest means that your money is growing exponentially over time. So you're earning interest on your initial investment and on any interest you've already accumulated.
So it's like free money.
Exactly. It's like free money.
I like the sound of that.
Right. But on the flip side, when it comes to debt, especially high interest debt, that snowball rolls downhill
Right.
and it makes you owe more and more over time.
So it's like the opposite of free money.
Exactly.
Oh,
So
definitely.
that's why it's so important to, use credit cards responsibly and avoid that high interest debt whenever possible.
So what I'm hearing is the earlier you start saving and investing, even if it's just a little bit, it's better than nothing because it gives it more time to grow.
Exactly. Time is your greatest ally when it comes to compound interest.
Yeah.
So even those small, consistent contributions can add up to significant sums over time just through the magic of compounding.
The magic of compounding, I like it.
Yeah.
So it's never too early to start.
Never too early.
Even if it's just a few dollars here and there.
Exactly.
Okay, this is starting to feel a lot less intimidating and a lot more like I can actually do this. So speaking of empowering, this lesson plan also highlights some common financial pitfalls that we should try to avoid.
Yes.
And the first one it mentions is living beyond your means,
Oh, yeah.
which I think we've all been there at some point.
Totally.
So what are some practical tips for, like actually living within our means and avoiding that like scary debt spiral?
Yeah, it's so easy to fall into that trap, right, of like trying to keep up with the Joneses or just like chasing those trends.
Yeah.
But this lesson plan offers some really great advice for just staying grounded.
Okay.
First and foremost, track your spending.
Okay.
You can't manage what you don't measure, right?
I have to be honest, tracking every penny can feel a little tedious.
It can.
But you're right, like it's kind of eye-opening to actually see where your money's going.
It is eye-opening for sure.
So what are your thoughts on that?
So I think it's all about finding a system that works for you.
Okay.
And it doesn't have to be forever.
Okay.
Even if you just track your spending for a week or a month. It can really like reveal some surprising patterns and areas where you could potentially cut back without feeling deprived.
Okay.
Think of it like a financial health checkup.
I like that. Okay, so it doesn't have to be like a life sentence of tracking every penny.
No.
Okay, that feels much more manageable.
Exactly.
So once we have a handle on where our money's going, how do we resist those impulse purchases?
Oh, yeah.
Because I am all for treating yourself, but those little things can really add up.
They can really add up.
If you're not careful, so how do we deal with those treat yourself moments?
It's about, being mindful, not miserable, right?
Okay.
One strategy that the lesson plan kind of promotes is like actually building those want purchases into your budget.
Okay.
So, if you want to buy a new phone in a few months,
Right.
factor that in.
Right.
That way it feels less like an impulse splurge and more like, a planned reward.
Ooh, I like that.
Right.
It takes the guilt away.
Exactly.
Okay, so speaking of things that can be a little bit dangerous, this lesson plan also calls out like relying too much on credit cards.
Yes.
So what are your thoughts on credit cards? Are they like inherently evil?
Credit cards, they can be tricky.
Yeah.
They can be incredibly useful tools when used responsibly,
Right.
but they can also lead to, trouble if you're not careful.
Right.
It's about viewing them as a tool, not a crutch.
Okay.
So if you're using them for, convenience, like earning rewards points or building credit, and you're paying them off in full every month,
Yeah.
they can actually work in your favor.
Okay.
But if you're carrying a balance and you're accruing all that interest, that's when things can get a little hairy.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
It's all about just like being mindful of how we're using them.
exactly.
Okay, and speaking of planning for the future, this lesson plan really emphasizes the importance of saving for retirement,
Yes.
even if it feels like it's a million years away.
Right.
Why is it so crucial to start thinking about this, like early on?
So think of it this way. The earlier you start, even if it's just a small amount every month, the more time your money has to grow.
Okay.
It's like, planting a tree.
Right.
The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago.
Right.
The second best time is today.
Okay.
And you remember that snowball effect of compound interest we talked about?
Yeah.
It's so powerful when it comes to retirement savings.
Okay.
So even if you feel like you're a little bit behind, don't get discouraged.
Right.
The important thing is to just start somewhere.
Okay, so like any amount is better than nothing.
Exactly.
Perfect. Okay, so we've covered so much good stuff today, from like decoding all those financial terms
know.
to like the importance of budgeting, saving, and avoiding all those like financial potholes that we can kind of fall into.
Right.
So for our listeners out there, what are some key takeaways that they can implement like right away?
Yeah, so the lesson plan offers some fantastic, really practical advice that anyone can, implement no matter where they're starting from.
Okay.
First and foremost, track your spending. For at least a week, get a clear picture of where your money's actually going.
Okay.
And then create a simple budget,
Yeah.
even if you don't stick to it perfectly.
Right.
It's a starting point.
It's a starting point. I love that.
Right.
Start small, build those healthy habits.
Exactly.
Awesome. And, this lesson plan also mentions like the importance of having an emergency fund.
Yes.
So how much should we aim for, and where should we even keep it?
So most financial experts recommend having, 3 to 6 months worth of living expenses saved
Okay.
in an easily accessible account, like a high yield savings account.
Okay.
And this is really just, a safety net that can help you navigate those like unexpected life events, right? Like a job loss, medical bills, and it just prevents you from having to rely on credit cards or go into debt.
Right, because that peace of mind is priceless, really.
Exactly.
Okay, so it sounds like getting a handle on our finances is more like a marathon, not a sprint.
It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Right.
And the great news is there are so many amazing resources available now to help you along the way.
Oh, yeah.
Budgeting apps,
Yeah.
financial literacy websites, even seeking personalized advice from a financial advisor.
Yeah.
The key is to just find what works best for you. Keep learning. Keep taking those steps towards your goals.
I love that. And on that note, I think it's time for us to wrap up this deep dive on financial wellness.
I'm good.
But remember, guys, financial well-being, it's totally within your reach.
It is.
If you could achieve one financial goal this year, what would it be?
Ooh.
And what's one step, even if it's a small one, that you can take today to kind of get started?
Yeah, that's a really good question to think about.
Right.
It's all about taking that first step.
Exactly, and building that momentum.
Exactly.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into financial literacy.
Yes, thank you.
Until next time, guys, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep taking control of your financial future.